Okay, conservatives of Texas. I want to apologize in advance. Something happened with my microphone, so if y'all get any background noise, then that's the reason. But I'm here tonight with Joey and Elisia. They're some dear friends of mine. I've known them for several years now. Used to play ball with Joey and everyone in his family, basically. Alicia used to be a bystander. She would just come for support. I don't know if you ever got involved with playing or not, but the reason for this interview tonight or this podcast is to kind of just have a Sunday night conversation with you guys and, the sanctity of life in the Texas Panhandle. I know that's a very serious issue for you, for sure, Alicia, because you've been involved with that. And I know you've always been a supportive husband, so that's very important. Here, as of late, with all the things that have been going on, with the talk with certain things, I had y'all come to a little community connect that we had, and we were talking about some things, and I remembered you guys dealt with something, very early on in y'all's relationship, and to see some things where the value of human life is just being, honestly, if we're going to be completely honest, a political tug of war anymore. With what you guys experienced, what are some things how does that make you feel, when it gets to the politic of it, but not only that, but just the callousness of the heart that you see in our society and our culture. I mean, we talked about this a little, a few months ago. So I really appreciate you guys pouring out a little bit. So, yeah, how does it, what does it do to you guys? I mean,
For me, I guess always, even growing up, even as a child, me and my sister would even talk to each other, as children. I mean, we were maybe under the age of 10, saying how it was so wrong to, for someone to abort a baby because that was, a baby. So, I mean, for a child to even see it in that aspect, it was astonishing to me, later on to become an adult and think back like, wow, I was, maybe 10 years old and already recognizing that it was wrong to have an abortion. Like, I felt that it was wrong in my heart. I never remember my parents talking about it. I never remember us always being like encouraged not to do that. Or, it was like, it was almost like it was instilled in me, and when I think about it now as, a growing Christian, it makes me, really reflect that God instilled that into me, that was, pure life that we are, just getting rid of at the fingertips of our convenience, whether it's convenient or not. And, I understand that things happen and sometimes it's hard to have conversations with people, because, there's different scenarios that women can be put into, and it's hard for them to make a decision whether it's wrong or it's right. But in all reality, at the end of the day, somebody's dying that day.
Yeah.
Based on the convenience of what it's going to do to your future. And to me, I just can't fathom, to think about somebody willingly wanting to get rid of a baby just because of the convenience that it's going to take away from their life.
What you guys experienced early on, I remember going to the funeral with y'all's little one, and I mean, there were people there for a funeral. We were there to pay our respects to a human life, to a human being. And Joey, being a father, you know, something is put in our DNA as protectors. I mean, to be helpless in that moment, and to just wish that we could fix that is something that fathers have really been, in today's society, has been taken out of that equation all too often. You know, with you experiencing that, I mean, you would do anything to change that, right? I mean,
Yeah, I would. Like, going back to your first question, for us, like wanting to conceive and wanting to be a father, wanting to be a mother, trying to raise a family and not be able to, for me it hurts because, that's something we want. And some other people that they can just do it, but just because they don't want it, they decide to abort the baby.
mhm,
And with our little girl, she was premature. I was a dad for 5 minutes, before she passed away. And yes, I did feel helpless because in my eyes, there's nothing I could do about it.
mhm,
I left it in the hands of God. We prayed, with the doctor, with the NICU, everything like that. But still, like, for me, it was like, I'm supposed to do something. Like, I have to make it right somehow. And I couldn't, like, I was just left there waiting, and those 5 minutes were like the longest 5 minutes of my life. And when they brought her back to us, she was there, like, she was born alive.
mhm,
And so when we had our funeral for her, it was like 2 days later, because she was born alive, we had to bury her. And
sure,
there was over 100 people there,
yeah,
you know, because they came to support us. They came, to give their respect, the condolences, for our loss, not for our loss, but because we had a child. And yeah,
mhm,
it was hard for us to do that,
yeah.
especially for me. Yeah, it was hard to go through that.
Did you guys get to hold her?
After
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
af-
after she
after
had passed.
after she passed, they gave us a couple of minutes with her and stuff like that, and we held her, we took turns and everything, and but she was just the size of our forearm. That's it.
mm,
Weighed about a little over a pound.
yeah,
Yeah.
And just to see her there and to see that she was taken away from us, it was hard for us,
mhm, mhm,
because of like why, we want kids and it's hard to conceive, and there's other people that will conceive, and just boom, it's gone, like they don't want it, they go.
yeah. For a mother, Alicia, I mean, I know some women, from what I've heard, they either get angry or they get just on an island, or they fight, for the opportunity to stand. What was it for you guys that you didn't blame God, or you didn't get upset with the situation to the degree where, is it part of your upbringing that
I would say it was more of me recently. At that point in my life, I had recently started trying to live a righteous life for God. Like, we were at that point where, like, we're not gonna do things wrongly anymore. Like, I want to do it the right way because I want to start living for God the right way. And then whenever that happened, honestly, like, immediately when it happened, I immediately started praying and just started asking God to allow me to trust in Him. And you know I'm Catholic, of course, so like when they had us in the hospital, I was like, put it on EWTN, just put it on the Catholic. I just need like all positivity at all times. Like,
Mhm,
I don't need any negativity in here, and I wasn't rebuking anybody. If like, I'm sorry, it's like, thank you, I was, appreciative, grateful, but I still wanted to keep my spirit, embedded in God and trusting that, He knew what
mhm,
was going to happen, and that we could ultimately trust in Him. And that was honestly, I feel like that's what got me through it, because if I wouldn't have really poured my heart out into trusting in Him with what was going to happen and what the outcome was going to be, then I could have probably like gotten to a point where I was angry at him, but I honestly never felt angry with him. I truly trusted that he knew what was better for her and for us, and so I was more mourningful than anything. I don't ever remember getting angry. I don't remember Jose getting angry. Like, we always, just tried to console each other, and be there for each other, through the pain.
What did that do for y'all's relationship? Did it make it just like catapult into that much more strength in trusting in one another as well, or how did that
To be honest, for me, it was harder.
really?
It was a little bit harder for me because that was my first child. I wasn't a dad before that. And I was scared. And luckily, she had the faith. Like we could try again. We can do it this time. Like it's gonna be okay. And I was like, me in my eyes, I couldn't do it. I couldn't go through a loss like that again. Because I knew it hurt her, it hurt me, it hurt my family. And everybody that was there. So for me, it was hard. But with her faith in God, with her faith in her religion, stuff like that, I saw it. And I've always been where that's my weak spot. Where she's strong at, I'm weak right there. So if she tells me it's gonna be okay, like we're gonna get through it, like it's gonna happen, you know, I was like, okay, let's see, let's see what happens, and I wasn't mad at her. I was more mad at myself because I feel like I pushed her too much. But she should be investing. I was having her do stuff around the house, because I didn't know what it was to be having a, like my fiance pregnant, like I never been through that before. So it was all new to me. I thought it was easy, but it wasn't, and for a long time I blamed myself for it, for it happening that way, and she never did, she never blamed me. She said, no, it's God's timing, everything happens in God's timing, and luckily, a couple of months later, we tried again, and my son, that's the reason we have my son now, and for that, it's like, okay, well, yeah, God took her away, but He blessed us with a son also, and if it wasn't for her passing away, we wouldn't have our son right now either, so we might not see what God's plan is, but God's plan is there for a reason. We just got to trust in God and not on our own understanding, just let Him, take over and let Him just be our, pretty much like our guide, and not let us, try to do everything. So
Yeah. Does Jaden, do y'all talk to him about any of that, any of what had occurred, or does he?
Yeah, he is aware. He actually had a hard time with it when he was smaller, just because he, I think, always yearned to have a sibling, especially if we went around family, they had siblings, he's like, why not have one? But then he always knew that he had a sister, but he didn't. And he's like, like he did for a while, sometimes the school would call me and tell me that he just had a rough day and that he was crying because, he knew that he had a sister, but she's not here. And, why couldn't she be here? And so even though he didn't have to go through that, like he still had to grieve through it because he knew that there was something there that could have maybe given him a little bit of happiness, to have a companion, whenever he went home and, he didn't have it, what he yearned for.
How many years apart are they?
About it, like what, 9 months?
Yeah, it's because she was supposed to be born in August, and our son was born in April the following year.
Okay.
So we lost her on April 12th is when we lost her, and then we conceived in July, like the end of June, early July, so around there. And
they're literally about a year apart.
Yeah. So
because she was born April the 12th of 2010, and then he was born April 19th of 2011.
2011. So like a week apart, pretty much. So.
Yeah, it is grievous when you see our culture and our society just kind of nonchalant. It's kind of a culture thing, but honestly, I don't blame the female to the degree where I don't blame her to the degree to where it's like entirely her fault, because our culture and our society, it seems like it's just a acceptable thing, and with what you guys experienced and went through, that's probably the way it used to be looked at, decades ago. But now it's like, hey, and at the end of the day, those fathers are still fathers, and those mothers are still mothers. And I mean, you're gonna see someday, your daughter, and it's gonna be pretty neat. So, the word says, "I knew you before I formed you." I believe it's Psalms 139, and I think that folks that are pro-life today, I don't know how it happened, but for some reason, something has happened in our culture that we're looked at as the ones that don't have compassion, and that's so odd because, like, how did that happen? Because we want to salvage the life, the sanctity of life, and what are your thoughts on that? What happened in our culture, do you think? I mean, in your opinion?
To me, like, honestly, I just feel like a lot of this stuff happened because they weren't brought up in the church. They weren't brought up, to be taught that. Like, because in my family, we went to church and everything, and they taught us about it. Like, they said that's not right to do. That's bad to do that. Like, don't do that. If you're gonna do it, expect to have a baby, and stuff like that. Like, and same thing for her. Like, she had people religious wise that were in her family a lot. So it's like they planted that seed in us. So we nurtured it, we grew, from there. And yeah, like, in my eyes, like, there's, for me, it was okay for if somebody had an abortion for a certain extent, like for a certain reason, But that's me being young, But now that I look at it, and have gone through it where we lost our baby, like, I was like, man, there's people out there that want a baby but can't have one, And so I feel like everything just goes back to family, culture, maybe even like, what they were brought up, like their ancestors, like how they were brought up, because my family always instilled in me that, like, like abortion was one thing that we didn't believe in. Like, we didn't protest, we didn't go to functions, we didn't go to like different stuff, but we did go to church. When we went to church, we did, we knew that that was wrong, and for us not to do that, And I feel like to me, I feel like that's what it is, honestly, like the way people were brought up, because a lot of these people now in our age, or in this time frame, like, nobody's teaching them like values, like the basics of life anymore. They're so caught up in electronics. They're so caught up in the internet. They so caught up in like what other people are doing that they try to fit in with them. So if somebody else does it, it's like, oh, well, they did it, I can do it too. Or somebody's willing to pay it for me, then I don't gotta waste no money. Then why not do it? Like, I'm too young. I still got this and that, and to us, it's just like, no, like, to me, it's never been like that. So.
For me, I would say it's been changed because of the change in the world. Like, as far as like self-seeking, it's all about me. Like, what is going to benefit me? If I get pregnant while I'm in high school and I want to be a doctor, well, now I can't be a doctor because I'm about to have a baby. So let me just go have a quick abortion so that I can continue on the route that I was. But I feel like that's really what it is. I mean, a lot of people get upset because they're like, well, what if, a man rapes a little girl or whatever and she's stuck with the baby? Well, it doesn't, that is horrible for that to happen. Like, shame on that man, and he needs, there needs to be justice. But in all reality, whether she has an abortion or not, she's going to have that trauma, whether she aborts the baby or whether she has the baby. That trauma's going to be there. Getting rid of the baby is not going to take away the trauma. And I feel like some people don't understand that, because it's more of like, what is it going to do to that person financially? What is it going to do to them physically, and they're not, I feel, focused on what it's going to do to them emotionally and mentally.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why it's changed, because it's more about that person that's actually already alive, like, working, doing something for the community or whatever. Like, it's more about what they want, and I feel like that's where it's just headed, to a self-seeking world.
Yeah. I know, Joey, you've watched sports for a long time, and I grew up, watching it also, but everybody has been around music, and you have it on your radio. I've always found that a lot of the entertainers and the athletes, they were raised with a single mom.
Yes.
And by the measure of the way the world looks at success, it's kind of a conundrum. It's kind of a paradox, because it's like these very people are the ones that are kind of pushing it, but at the same time, they had that situation when they were in the womb with their mother, and she decided to have that child, that singer or that athlete. And I've always found that to be a bit of a paradox. It's kind of like, wow. I mean, your mother faced so much adversity. She had you. You're successful, but you're gonna say, it's a woman's choice as a male singer or a male athlete. I just, that baffles me.
And it's true, because like how you said that, because we had like the NFL draft, we had the NBA draft just recently, and it always comes out, oh well, my mom was single, working 2 jobs, trying to support, giving me what I needed, to go to practice, this and that and everything, and here I am, I give thanks to God, I give thanks to her. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, then it's like, okay, well, if she would decide to avoid you, what would you have been at? What would have happened?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is true, because you always hear those stories about the struggling person that overcame adversity, and here they are, in the spotlight, doing things for the community, doing organizations or funding this and that, schools and all that stuff, to help it,
Yeah. I think that's amazing. That it's a testament to how strong women really truly are in our society. They're the backbone of what it means to get it done. A lot of single mothers in this country that are getting it done, and we should cite those examples more than the ones that are self-seeking, like you just kind of mentioned. You know what I mean? Pray for them too, but we have a lot of examples of success in having your child. So it would be nice to start seeing our society kind of surround the I guess the narrative to that component. It'd be nice. And I'm sure there's a lot of stories out there, but we don't get to see them until, like you mentioned, draft day or whatever the case is. But that proves that they're there. They're actually there. And I brought up the issue with culture. I really truly believe that if our culture would embrace those types of stories, that we would see a different society today. And so your son Jaden, he's tremendous. He's amazing, and he's going to be something very special someday. I already know. Just watching him, and you guys faced a very hard situation, but for some odd reason, this world says, hang it up, blame God, blame whatever. But you guys are proof, and so we had a community connect with the issue of Sanctuary City for the Unborn, and y'all were there. And I was just watching you guys, and I'm like, man, I really honestly felt a little guilty, because I'm like, man, kind of putting them through something, and I hope it's not kind of giving them a hard reminder of what they had to experience. So I did feel a little concerned about that. But you guys sat through there, and y'all amaze me how strong y'all are in this situation, because just like you say, it's just the way you were raised and the way you were brought up, and it's just amazing to me. I really appreciate you guys, taking some time. I know we've been talking about doing this for several weeks.
Yeah.
Probably almost 2 months now.
Yeah.
And so I really thank you guys. For young men and young ladies, that the reality is our culture does advertise a lot by doing the deed.
Yeah.
But when they do the deed, it's like, hey, what's always been odd for me is be responsible, protect yourself. But if you have the baby, they're like, well, you're not old enough to be responsible. So I always thought that was interesting. But what would you say to the youngsters out there that that do find themselves in a situation? What are some things that you think would help them, give them some confidence to see it through? What do you think, Elisia?
For me, I would honestly just try to really convince them that there are people out there who truly love them, even if they might not feel it in that that moment. And if if they even feel that their family wouldn't be there for them, that even me as a person, I would be willing to be there for them, or help them, give them resources, to know that they can get through that. Even if they are willing to keep that baby and, give it up for adoption so that that baby can still, have a chance at life, then, I would even, encourage them to do that. And possibly if they were willing, I'd even try to pray with them in that moment, to give them some sort of light, to know that, that little doubt, that they might have, that if I have this baby, how is my life going to completely change?
Mm-hmm.
And, try to give them some sense of peace and encouragement that, that their life is not over in that moment just because they're going to have a baby,
Mm-hmm.
that came at an inconvenient moment, and that they're, they're important just as much as that baby is important.
Yeah, like you said, like for me, it just be offering resources, like whatever faith they're in, like there's people waiting to help, there's communities, there's groups and everything that want to help out, and honestly, I feel like more than anything, you could possibly like just tell them, like look at the positive stuff and not just negative. You're too young, you're not gonna be able to make it. What you gonna do about this? Don't like instead be positive about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like guide them through it. Tell them, what you're strong enough, you're independent. Like we always hear that saying that God is not gonna put you through something you cannot handle.
Yeah.
So if God gives you a child, that means He's giving if you're pregnant because of it, it's because there's a reason why you're pregnant. And don't let it something that God gave you, don't take it away. Because like you said, there's a lot of single mothers out there that are doing it on this by themselves, and you never know what their child could be, and it pays you back tenfold. So it's always just look at it more instead of the negative, try to look at it the positive way, like instead of like the what ifs, like this is what can happen,
Yeah.
and then encourage them, and not just belittle them or tell them demean them or put them down, because like our son, he's getting to that age, and so we tell him, like you're a teenager, like he's 13, enjoy life,
Mm-hmm.
enjoy your teenage years. Everything will happen when in God's timing,
Yeah.
and for someone maybe it happens, and if, instead of us looking down on them, we should be able to lift them up, We should be able to be there not only for the mom, but even for the dad. He's gonna be a dad too. Like he needs some guidance. He needs some encouragement. He might be, well, I'm too young. I can't. I'm not ready for this. Yes, you are. Like you can do this. Like have faith in yourself. Like have faith in God. Like they can. Without them. Without God. Yeah, you're gonna think like this. But if you have faith, then yeah, you can. You know.
What are some funny quirks that you see Jaden do? Does he have some things that you don't know how he picked it up, but you used to do it when you were a kid, or you, Elisia, and you're like, I never taught him that. Where you get that from? But then your mom says something like, you used to do that too, or is there some funny things that he does?
That's up for me. That the reason I know like he's my son, like for example, is because he has a mouth on him.
Okay.
He's very competitive. So if his team is losing, whatever, like he'll stomp up and down the living room. He'll like talk smack and everything. So that's how I know, because I'm like, dang. I was like, now look at it. I was like, since I gotten older, I mellowed out on that stuff. Like I should get angry, if they miss a catch or they,
Yeah.
struck out, whatever. Just different stuff. Even like you see with my family,
Yeah.
if I overrun second base and they take me out, and that should have been safe. I get it, I hear it from them. So my son, he's very competitive. He does not like to lose. If he does lose, there's a reason for it. Like
Yeah.
he always makes up some kind of excuse for it. And I'm like, dang, this kid's annoying. But then I'm like, I used to do that though. Like I used to get mad at my teammates when I was in baseball. When I was little and stuff like that too. So
he's very competitive,
Yeah.
like you, huh? What about you, Elisia? What are some funny things that he does that you just go, wow, that's hilarious. That's so funny.
he's clumsy.
Growing up, when he started playing baseball, well, Tball really, it, honestly, he started this in Tball, and I know it was like in the blood of his
Mhm.
dad. He used to go up, get ready to bat, and he'd get the bat and he hit it on the heels of his
Yeah.
cleats every time. One foot and then the other foot, and then he'd
Yeah.
get ready. And that's exactly what Joey used to do.
That's
Every time you go up there, he hit the heels of his cleats,
Yeah.
and then he'd get ready to bat. And Jaden does that every time.
That's so wild. Circle of life,
Yeah.
and circle of his own mannerisms.
Yeah, and he did. I didn't teach him that. I wasn't around at that time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, he just did it on himself. Like
That's amazing. I bet.
even when he went to she told me when he was little, he's loved McDonald's burritos forever.
Yeah.
And for a while there, I was putting the the grape and the strawberry in the burrito, and just eat like that. And he started doing it by himself.
Oh wow.
He said he
Yeah.
wanted great every time. I'd get him like a little burrito, like one of those dollar burritos.
Yeah.
And then instead of hot sauce, he wanted me to get him grape jelly to put on the
That is
burrito.
wild. That is wild. That blew your mind, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, she told me
did.
that, and she called me one day. She told me that. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like,
You know, the joy of life and those things that you get to capture into their mannerisms and things of that nature is just, it shouldn't be taken for granted. Those are jewel moments,
Yeah.
And for the parents out there that are young, that are dealing with the situation where they feel like, man, this is gonna be such a challenge. Just push through, right, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just push through, because the joy in those little things that you get to witness as they grow up, you just can't trade that for the world.
You can.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. And the enemy would have them believe that, it's so much better if you just had a better start. Well, he's called the father of lies for a reason. Yes, sometimes people back into the situation and, just make the best of it, and they'll find out that the reward, they're everlasting.
Because
Yeah.
like her, she was a single mom for 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
She was
Yeah.
a single mom, and she did it.
Yeah.
She was, she put him through a lot of different stuff, and she
Yeah,
at
I
one
would
time,
see him. Yeah,
at one time, she sometimes doubted herself, but she still took that leap of faith, and it worked out for
Yeah.
her.
yeah,
So it helped her out. So that's why if she can do it, then there's plenty of others that can do it too.
yeah.
And with some kind of guidance, with some kind of help, they can push through. They
Yeah.
can do it.
And I would always tell him, because he's working 3 jobs at once. And, I was like, you got to trust in God. Like, I promise he's going to provide.
Yeah.
Especially because just coming from experience, When I had to raise Jaden, I had one job only. I told myself I would never get two jobs because I was like, I'm not gonna miss out on his life. Like I have to be there for him. Like no two jobs or school in this world or degree or whatever is like worth more. Like the time is gonna pass and I'm not gonna have that relationship with him, and that's more important to me. And so I always only had one job, and I was working at McDonald's. And God provided ever since he was 3 years old. I always had a place of my own. I was paying all the bills on my own. I had a vehicle. I was paying rent. I even at one point had him in private school, and I was paying $150 a month. Just to put him in private school. So that he could have that ability and that opportunity to learn about his faith. Something that I didn't have, and that was like really important to me. And
and you did this all with just high school education.
Yes.
And so people can do it.
They can.
Just with just the base.
Yes, it can be done.
There's a lot of jobs that you can advance in. Like for example, like right now, she stays at home and works from home. So she's able, to stop doing what she's doing for a little bit and do something, but she's, she she has everything set out, and it's good. And so me before, all the way right before we got married, last year I was working 3 jobs. Like she said, and finally I gave up 2 of them and just started with one. And like she said, she's always been that type of person. God will provide. God's gonna, and it is. Now I just by 6:30 the latest I'm home every day. I get to spend every single night now with them.
What an amazing testament to where you were in the beginning. You had to deal with a situation where you lost a child. You didn't blame anyone. You didn't blame the Lord. You just stuck through it. And then, for whatever reasons, she had to raise Jaden for the first part. And you did it, Elisia. You pushed, you fought through, and you're proof that just with high school education, just stay dedicated. See, it's a term, and now we're here today. And you don't have to work 3 jobs. You're working the one. You're home at 6:30. You're working from the house, and that's hope for people out there that would say it's too much of a challenge. And it is hard, but it can be done. You two are living witnesses to it working out. And Jaden is getting to see it himself, and when he gets old enough to where he starts a family, I'm sure he's gonna really appreciate all the things that have occurred. So I think we're getting close to being done, but just in about a minute, just 1 minute each, if you don't mind, just I don't know. You never know who's watching, who's going to be watching. As a husband and a wife that has dealt with some things, just what would you say to them? And just a 60-second, hey, it'll work out type of thing. So you have you can do a minute, and then Elisia, you can do a minute. So
for me, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what the devil tries to put in your life, always know that he's already defeated. You might seem like you're at your end of the ropes, that you might be in the valley, but the valley is just the lowest place you could go. You can fall as many times as you want. It doesn't matter as long as you get up. In God, anything is possible, and you are worth every single penny of it. We try to help other people out now because we've been blessed. We're not rich, we're not famous, we're not nothing like that. But the love that we have for other people too. And we love everybody just like God loves us. So don't lose sight of the positive, and always just don't think of that about the negative, but think about the positive also. And that's all I have.
For me, I just like to say that in that moment of darkness or the negativity that may be surrounding you, maybe you have family, you have friends who are telling you to end it right then and there, to end that life. Listen to that little voice that is telling you don't do it, because that is going to be that little voice that is going to bring you that peace. It's going to bring you the comfort in the very end, when that baby is in your hands and you are looking into that baby's eyes, looking at that baby's smile. You're going to never regret that moment ever, and you're going to tell yourself that you are so happy that you made that decision to not get an abortion, to not end that life. The amount of joy that a baby can bring you is unfathomable. It's something that nobody else in this world can ever give you or buy for you. It's only something that God is going to be able to provide to you, as long as you're willing to trust in Him, and to trust that He is going to provide that happiness and that peace to you.
Well, thank you guys. And man, you guys are astonishing. So let me finish this out real quick. So, you heard Joey and Elisia mention that, they're willing to be there for whoever. Who knows? So am I. I mean, we may not be able to, buy you a home or anything like that, but we can be there to be an ear, to talk to you, to see you through these things, to love you. Because if we're pro-life, we got to be pro-you, and we've got to be pro-her and pro-him, and that is part of the pro-life message, is to be pro that person that's alive, right? So reach out to us, get a hold of us. My email for Conservatives of Texas is the letter A, and then my last name, Deanda, DEANDA, 4218 at gmail.com. Just put in the subject.
You can get to us.
Yeah, just you can. I would like to get some resources or something, and I'll get together with Joey and Elisia and others. There's a lot of people that are willing to do this, to do these things, that are out there. There's a lot of organizations that help, and so there is hope. There is hope, So, hey, make a comment down below if you needed that email back again, or my phone number. I'd be more than happy to provide that for you guys. Conservatives of Texas, we don't care about being popular at all. We don't do this for any reason but to just bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to the forefront in the best way that we can. We're not perfect. We make mistakes, but we're going to definitely try to help who we can in any aspect, in any walk of life, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be a witness to who He is. And we love our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And He says that He is the way, He is the truth, and He is the life. And we believe that wholeheartedly. So thank you guys for coming on. Thank y'all for watching. And please don't hesitate. If you know anybody, even if it's not yourself, have them connect with us, and we would love to meet them, talk with them, and do whatever we can for them. Okay, so bye, guys. All right, that was really good.